2010 at an event in Los Angeles, and he's very personable. He gives access. You can talk to everybody, and he had asked, started talking to me, and right away he asked me what I did for a living. Well, I have a response. I always do. I have a business card, and I gave him a business card. At the time, I was a new marketing director for Transamerica. And he goes, well, what's your product and service? I said, well, insurance and life planning. So, why do you like insurance? And I was like, well, you pay taxes. There's a lot of advantages for life insurance. The investments in a life insurance policy are tax exempt. And he got intrigued by that, but then he had said, well, I've had prostate cancer. And I'm like, okay, well, your age and that issue will probably be cost prohibitive. Right that minute, what I had was no longer appealing to him. He could only just refer me. When he came to McAllen, he had that whole stick down pat, very smooth, and he taught us about making sure that you're basically qualifying your audience and that you're speaking to them with something of interest. So when you're giving your speech, you have to pay attention, and I had to do that right now, right here today, because of our guests. So what I'm going to talk about is the heritage of Toastmasters. There was a gentleman by the name of Captain Lee. He was a Civil War veteran, and he was the right-hand man of Andrew Carnegie. And he was really cantankerous. He had a drawer full of resignation notices, and whenever he had a disagreement with Carnegie, he'd tender his resignation and make this steel titan, the founder and CEO of the largest company on the planet, negotiate with him. And so they realized they needed a go-between. So there was a guy named Charles Schwab, whose family had a dime store that Captain Lee used to get his breakfast and coffee in the morning. And this guy was very personable, and they recruited him, and he became the messenger between Andrew Carnegie and Captain Lee. Well, around that time, unions started infiltrating the company, and they went on strike at the Bethlehem steel plant, and they put a picket line around the plant and on the pier to Lake Erie. So Carnegie hires the Pinkertons, a world-renowned, tough guy, security company, and they took a boat to the pier to put down this picket line, put down the strike. Well, every time they got off the boat and they got beat down by the unions. And that was the beginning of the tough guy reputation in the unions. And so Carnegie had to cave to their demands. But he put Charles Schwab in as the evening manager for the Bethlehem plant. And the first thing he did when he walked into the plant, they said, how many vats of steel did you cook today? And the big foreman said, 4. So he takes some big letters and chalk and writes a 4 on the wall. When the evening shift comes in, they said, what's that about? So that's how many vats of steel the day shift cooked. So the evening shift, they cooked 5. So he raised that with a big 5 on the wall. And then when the midnight shift came in, they said, what's that? That's how many vats of steel the evening shift cooked. So they cooked 6. And that kind of competitive competition and leadership, Schwab made Bethlehem the #1 producing plant of all of Bethlehem steel. And Schwab gained a reputation of being a great leader, and he eventually became vice president of Carnegie Steel. Well, then at a banquet in his honor, he gave an impromptu speech, and he started talking about his vision, his new way of distributing steel. In the audience was J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan at the time was backing a group of distributors that were planning on trying to compete with Carnegie Steel. And as Schwab was speaking, and J.P. Morgan was listening, he's going, everything Schwab is saying is in place with the guys I'm representing, Carnegie, for distribution, and Carnegie Steel for production. So he met with Charles Schwab privately and got him to broker a deal between Andrew Carnegie and his group, forming U.S. Steel, which was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Now, when you're talking to people, speak at a group, usually you're going to know, who you're talking to, with them, so you can pick your topic. But if you haven't, you got to be quick. So when I was in Chula Vista, California, and I was getting my tires balanced on my car, and the young man behind the counter, red hair, freckle face, his name was Sean. It's spelled S-H-A-W-N. I said, oh, you spell it right. That's the Dutch spelling for John. He goes, I know, I was born in the Netherlands. And I noticed he was wearing a denim shirt that was Western cut. And I go, how long have you been riding horses? He goes, well, I grew up in Oklahoma. And then a gentleman comes to the counter speaking only Spanish. And this guy, dealt with him in perfect Spanish. I go, where'd you learn to speak Spanish like that? He goes, I was in the Honduran army. He goes, I go, oh really? Have you ever been to Boca Raton? He's like, who are you? He thought I was in the 80s. I was in Navy SEAL, and we used to train at that base. And that's where all of our normal training comes from. So, when you are talking to somebody, whether it's in a group or individually, you've got to know who you're talking to. Andrew Carnegie's nephew was Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie had heard this story about Charles Schwab and his incredible leadership all the time growing up, and then he ended up writing the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there was a gentleman by the name of Ralph Schmedley who took the course and loved the information and the training, but it was cost prohibitive for the general public. So he created what's called a 4-man version of the Carnegie course, which is Toastmasters. So you are learning how to influence people. You're learning what they learned, but at a bargain. There was a priest. I used to go to a church at St. Charles in Reubens, California, and there was a priest there, Mike Robbins. He was like 6'5". He had a bachelor's degree in psychology, and he was kind of an entrepreneur. He was a manager for Marie Callender's restaurant chain and helped them expand in Oregon and Washington State before he went to seminary in Rome. And every time he gave a homily, it was like he was living in my back pocket. I'm like, how did he know to say this? So I invited him to a Toastmaster meeting. He didn't know nothing about Toastmasters. So I try to give him a summary of the meeting and the flow of the meeting before we get there. And he gets there and he does an impromptu speech talking about the Word. So the Word is a living being. It has its own identity. And what my job is to deliver the Word without getting my own agenda in the way. People will take out of it what they need for their life. And so that is what Toastmasters helps you learn to do. When you're giving a talk to somebody, when you're trying to give an inspirational speech, you want to not just give them information, you don't want to just get them excited and motivated, you want to get them to take action. So Chewy, with the Trail Life organization, he can take what he learns at Toastmasters and promote that organization. Louisa, with equal rights and suffrage, she does a great job at that. And the whole trick is to get somebody to hear what you're saying and take action. And I want to encourage you to take what you're learning in Toastmasters